Chapter 1. The Whisper in the Reeds. From the Journals of Will Dried, Zombie Fly Co. There's something strange about Stillwater's reach. Ask the old-timers, and they'll tell you it was once a logging run, back when great pines floated like dead giants down the channel. Before the mill shut, before the water slowed to a swampy crawl, before the docks collapsed and the skiff rotted into the reeds. Now it's just a forgotten stretch of backwater. Not quite a lake, not quite a river, but something lives there. Something that doesn't belong. And this is where it began. With a fly. Not just any fly. The first original pattern ever tied by hand at Zombie Fly Coney, meant to honor the panfish slayers of old. A creature of thread and instinct. Dubbed in chartreuse and olive, with a thick peacock Herl thorax and a hackle that moved like matted hair. It had long rubber legs, X'd like a mutant's warning, a copper bead that gave it weight, and a thick back of mottled turkey feather that made it look, well, alive. We called it the swamp crawler, meant for gills, crappie, maybe the odd bass, tied with love and a little bit of madness. What we didn't know, what we couldn't have known, was that it was more than a fly. It was a summon. I remember the air that evening. It had that thick midsummer haze, the kind that dampens your shirt before you even reach the shoreline. I launched from my old tin boat, creaking with age and covered in old sticker glue, and drifted into the mouth of the reach. No other boats, no bird song, just the hiss of insects and the sound of lily pads tapping each other like nervous fingers. The dock had long since given up to rot, sagging into the murk like a warning. Halfway submerged, a forgotten rowboat leaned against the bank. That was the spot. Locals say it's cursed, that it drags line, bends rods, and gives back nothing. I laughed at that, tied on the prototype swamp crawler. It was still wet from head cement, barely dried. I cast once, testing weight. The copper bead head sank it fast. The rubber legs jittered on retrieve like something crawling home. The hackle pulsed with every twitch. Second cast, I stripped twice and then felt it. A pause in the line, not a take, not a nibble, a decision. Then all hell broke loose. The rod jolted, bent hard to the cork. My line tore across the water like it had hooked a truck axle. My knees slammed the hull as I lurched forward. I was nearly pulled clean from the boat. My heart thumped. Had to be a pike. Big one, maybe 30 inches or more, but it wasn't sharp like a pike. No slashing run. This thing dug. It went down, into the green, into the weeds, where only the old ones sleep. I managed to grip the paddle, steer one-handed, but the line didn't give. It was dragging the boat. I swear it circled me. Once, twice. Then the boat jolted again, spun me sideways. This was no panfish, not a bass, not a bowfin. It was something else. I let the line go slack for half a heartbeat, just a taste. And it took it again, hammered it like a freight train. I knew I had to change the fight, couldn't stay in the boat. So I let it pull me toward shore, toward the old dock. I leapt out, nearly eating mud in the process, slipped onto the algae-slick planks and ran to the end of the pier, rod high. Arm screaming, heart in my throat. The water boiled 30 feet out, and just for a moment, just a flicker between ripples, I saw it. Broad-backed, spined, armor-plated, not a pike, not a walleye, a perch, but not like any perch I'd ever seen. This one was thick through the shoulders like a bulldog, with spiny dorsal fins that broke the surface like the backs of ancient fish. Its scales were green gold, scarred. Its eye glowed red as it vanished again. They say pike vanish when this fish moves. They say it's lived under the dock for years, feeding on the wounded, the dying, the foolish, and it chose the swamp crawler. That's when I knew. This wasn't just a lucky fly. It was a key, a pattern pulled from nightmares, accidentally perfect, tied with instinct, memory, and a little of that old ZFC weirdness. And whatever this fish was, it didn't just eat the swamp crawler, it answered it. Chapter 2. Battle Beneath the Rotwood Dock. From the Journals of Will Dried, Zombie Fly Comb. There's something about a real fight that strips you down. You're not a fisherman anymore. Not a man, not a guide or a fly tier or even a voice in your own head. Your nerves and instinct, Your prey and predator tangled in one long, wet heartbeat. That's what it felt like as I stood on that rotten dock. Rod bowed, knuckles white, and lines slicing through the water toward the belly of Stillwater's reach. The fish didn't run straight. It circled me. It studied me. It moved through the submerged ribs of the sunken boat like it was a ghost swimming through its old wreck. Weed beds parted like curtains. Frogs scattered. I saw the shimmer of baitfish fleeing from a moving shadow the size of a canoe. And my line, my poor fly line, was screaming. The copper bead of the swamp crawler had found its mark, and now it was embedded in something ancient. Twice the beast tried to run me into the logs, those gnarled stumps of riverwood rising like teeth just under the surface. I had to angle the rod sideways, kneeling on the warped dock boards, praying they wouldn't snap under me. And when it turned, gods, when it turned, the wake alone rocked the lily pads. The fly rod in my hands, a 6-weight meant for panfish and the odd bass, was now arched into a near circle. My reel spun like a possessed top, drag hissing. The cork handle dug into my palm so hard I swear I still feel it. I had two choices: let the line go slack and risk losing it in the weeds, or trust the swamp crawler and lean in. So I leaned in. I side-hauled and stripped line, kicking off the boards, nearly tumbling backward into the cattails, mud on my knees, sweat in my eyes. The line tightened, and then the dock groaned, ancient nails screaming against rotted timber as I staggered to the edge. That's when it surfaced again. This time, in full, it was a perch, but a giant perch, not just big, wrong big, as if something had twisted its lineage through generations of still water and nightmares. It rose from the weeds like a crowned beast, its dorsal fin arched high, serrated like a saw blade. The green-gold scales were knotted with scars, signs of battles fought long before I'd ever come to fish that place. And in its lip, buried like a jewel, the swamp crawler pulsed, still alive in the water, still twitching. The fish thrashed once, drenching me to the chest, then dove. This time I followed, not literally, but spiritually. Yeah, I dove into that moment, locked in combat. My senses narrowed, time slowed. I was no longer thinking. I was just fighting. I shifted my footing on the edge of the dock, bringing pressure from below to turn the fish's head. It resisted, violently. The entire left side of the submerged skiff tipped. It had made that sunken boat its throne, its fortress beneath the rod. I could feel it trying to return there, and I wasn't about to let it. My arms burned, my legs shook, and somewhere in the haze of fight I heard something snap. Not the rod, not the line, the fish. It gave, not fully, not defeated, but for the first time, it came toward me. The next 60 seconds were a blur of stripping line, stepping back, praying the dock didn't collapse under my boots, of guiding the head through weeds so thick I could barely see, of hearing frogs splash, dragonflies scatter, the wind hush, as if nature itself were watching this happen. And then, it was there, belly up, just beneath the water, red eye watching. I reached with my net, far too small, and somehow slid it under the head, lifting as the tail still thrashed in the water. My knees hit the dock, the beast flopped in the net. Its gill plates flared, the fly fell free with a final twitch. We locked eyes, man and monster, and in that one shared moment I felt something cold and old looking back at me. Not anger, not fear, but recognition. They say perch aren't smart. But this one? It knew. It wasn't just a fish, it was a guardian, a hidden relic of Stillwater's reach, and it hadn't taken the swamp crawler by mistake. It answered it, because that fly was more than a pattern. It was bait for something forgotten. Chapter 3. The Keeper of the Reach. Final entry. Will dried, ZFC. I released it. How could I not? That giant perch slid from the net like a stone king, returning to its sunken throne. No splash, no thrash, just a swirl of weeds and silence. They say it still lives there, beneath the old boat, under the broken dock, in the green heart of Stillwater's reach, where even pike fear to tread. And the swamp crawler? That cursed, blessed, beautiful mistake. It went back on the bench, framed in rusted glass, the first fly of Zombie Fly Company, and the only one to ever wake the keeper of the reach. So tie it if you dare, but know this, some flies don't just catch fish, they summon them.